going to kind of keep rolling here. Timeline, we set out a rough timeline of what we thought was going to happen. The goal, I think, really was that we were going to track the album in a month. I think that was the kind of the goal, and that turned into 4. But as far as the timeline, I just want to walk you through like what I personally experienced, and then what also George was a part of. So as far as this project, I really started writing stuff back in October of 2014. Christ the Lord actually was written in 2012, and Hark the Herald was written in 2013. So like, if we want to go back, I could say, oh, I was writing songs since 2011. You know what I mean? But I'm not really saying that. I just started kind of the process of collecting songs in 2014 for this project. I also needed to define the project and what it was going to be and what it was going to look like. And so I spent kind of the last part of 2014 doing that. And then 2015 was basically a year-long journey of working on a Christmas project for myself and Visible. So like 2015 was like the year of Christmas for me personally. During the first few months of 2015, I really spent a lot of time writing Empty Chair. That's a song that I wrote about grief at Christmas time, and people who you have had maybe in your family or close friends that are no longer here, and just the kind of the pain of what it feels like to go through a holiday season with people that you've loved that are not here anymore. And that was a very delicate song to write. I've lost both my parents. You guys aren't unaware of that. So that it took me time to kind of like process through the content of that, as well as write the song and have my songwriting teacher from McNally really feel good about it and craft the 6-part a cappella thing at the end and all of that. Like that song just took time. I started doing demo tracking in the early spring for George. I talked with him in February about doing the project, and he committed to it at that time. But we didn't actually start doing any like pre-production stuff until almost summer. So it was just more of an agreement thing that he and I had together verbally. But in early spring, I started sending him, hi David, come on in, if you like. I started doing early demo tracking for George in the spring. And then I wrote Just For You, which became the title track of the album, in a week. And that happened right at the end of the semester, of the spring semester. And then we went into pre-production, which started in May with George, which the first session was just at his house, in his basement, having a conversation about what this project was going to be, and kind of mapping out some documents and some things just to help us kind of keep on the same page. I had identified all of the artists that were going to be involved with the project around that time as well, and then in June I arranged the schedule for the sessions. We did some of the session work here. We did some of the session work at his studio over in Munster, and then you did also some stuff at your house, right? Yeah. So most of the tracking sessions, though, that I personally was at were either between here and between Exodus Studios in Munster. So that started happening in July. In July was when Shine got written. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and Give Love on Christmas Day were arranged, and George was very influential in those arrangements particularly. In August, we were doing more tracking. We thought we were going to be done with tracking by the time school started in the fall. Didn't happen. In August, I started the conversation with a musical director in Minneapolis that we'll talk more about next week. I hired a band and a musical director for the live stuff in Minneapolis when I went on the tour. And so I started those conversations in August of 2015. I also started working on the album artwork And venue contacts in September. September is when we wrote What Child Is This? That arrangement got made in a day. That was, I think you happened to be there that day, yeah? That was, the entire thing got tracked in a day. It was amazing to watch happen, because like John came in and George had the keyboard down, and Courtney just started stacking horn after horn after horn after horn after horn. After horn. It was wild. It was wild. So that's when What Child Is This got created. Of course, at that point, I was already, back at school, like with you guys, and so it was I'm sure you remember, like me coming in Friday mornings and like looking like I hadn't slept at all, because I probably hadn't, because a lot of our sessions were on Thursday nights during the academic semester, and we were here well past.
Man, it was wild.
We were here late.
Yeah.
And my wife was awesome through it. So thank you, my love, for being awesome through it.
That's not what she told me.
I started talking with a friend of mine about the album artwork, and he helped me design it in September. In October, I got the funding secured. I was dealing with brand management throughout this whole time. I had a photo shoot done in October for the album artwork. For me, just aesthetically, like I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to design. I like a lot of like beautiful imagery and photography, and like minimal text. That's just a personal artistic preference of mine. And so I knew that I wanted the album to be full of photography versus like some kind of design that might age. So.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've reached it. Brand management, like what is that and how did you
Yep.
develop the brand management?
So basically, because my project was the academic project through McNally was to launch myself as an independent artist. Basically, like I had to take on all of the brand management myself. Mm-hmm. And so essentially what that really ended up looking like was me fine-tuning my website, because I already had a website at that point, but I really needed to fine-tune what it was looking like and how it was functioning. That became the foundation. And then I really clarified the social platforms that I was using, and started to create actual content for those platforms. That's what I'm talking about for brand management. And I was doing that like basically all myself. It is a lot. I'll just leave it at that. So we're into kind of like mid to late fall here. With October, I got the photo shoot done on Halloween over at the Toll Theater in Hammond. November was a stressful month for me, as well as for George, because that's when the manufacturing and the digital distribution had to take place. We didn't know that there were deadlines that iTunes had for holiday releases. So had I had an album that wasn't a holiday release, it wouldn't have been a big deal to push the release date back. But because I had a Christmas album coming out, I needed it to come out at Thanksgiving. And I missed the iTunes deadline. And so I was sweating bullets because like in my head, I wanted that album to be live on Thanksgiving Day. And it wasn't. And it was frustrating. We were live. We were live on Cyber Saturday. Like Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Saturday. Is Cyber Monday? Small Business Saturday.
Yes.
That's what it is. We were live Small Business Saturday on iTunes.
So you didn't really miss it too bad.
What is Sunday?
I didn't miss it too bad, but I didn't know that at the early part of November.
Besides the Lord's
And so
Day. Sabbath Sunday.
because I missed the iTunes deadline, and because we were dealing with the hard copy manufacturer, like all of these deadlines were just like getting thrown out the window, and I was like, what do I do? So November was very stressful, because all of we were still tracking up until I think the first part of November.
November, yeah.
Like, because when did the strings get finished?
like the last week of October, because I went out to LA, and I literally got strings from Lee
At
when I
that
went
point.
to LA. Yeah,
Because you tracked him yourself?
yeah, I tracked him, and then he ended up tracking some after I left,
Okay.
and he had to send them to me.
So November was stressful. CD manufacturing, final mixing, deadlines with digital distribution, me trying to, getting ready to take the Visible Collective on the road to Memphis for a Visible Christmas, me leaving like a week later to go to Minneapolis for my own tour. It was madness.
It was a lot.
I was also on the phone quite a bit with tour venues in November. We'll talk about that next week. December, Maureen and I were talking about this the other day, like December was a blur. I don't even remember it, quite frankly. But the CDs were available. I had an album release concert, and the tour was happening for myself in Minneapolis, and all the while I was doing brand management on social platforms as well as my website. So that's kind of like the rough timeline of like how things happened. But I want to keep this conversation focused on the album because we'll talk about the tour stuff next week. Okay, so let's kind of keep on trucking here.